And welcome back to Sports on Tap. We're live from Studio J in Brunswick, Ohio. It's our Ohio High School football coverage. We're part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. I'm Rob Trout. We have Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy here, and it's our playoff coverage.
Playoffs.
Playoffs.
I'll tell you what, first week of the playoffs, really some upsets and some great games. You know, Medina coming back. Josh got to. Ed's talking about playoffs. He breaks it down like no other. Sean's ready to get to Division II, Region 5.
That's right.
And I will talk about Division II, Region 6 shortly. But,
right.
Sean, get into Division II, Region 5.
All right, well, we'll start off with the number 1 seed, Aurora Greenman, hosting a familiar foe in the Barberton Magics. And it was all Aurora, unfortunately. After failing to turn 2 initial red zone drives into points, Aurora got right on the board around their third possession, just 12 seconds into the first play of their third possession. Quarterback Evan Fromweiler found Gavin Blunt behind the defense for a 42-yard touchdown, and just like that, the Greenmen were up 7-0. To give you an idea of what Gavin Blunt's night was like, he caught a touchdown pass, broke up several third-down passes on defense, and even, for good measure, ran a punt back for a touchdown in the second half. So he was busy. Aurora linebacker Bubba Arslinian was not to be outdone when he picked off Barberton quarterback Zane Reese at the Aurora 19 and rambled all the way down to the 19-yard line. To the 10-yard line, and set up a Robbie Albrecht field goal, which gave the Aurora Greenmen a 10-0 lead with just over 4 minutes remaining in the first half. Halftime score was 10-0, and this was anybody's game in the second half. Barberton opened the second half with the ball, but unfortunately the drive stalled, and as it always does in the playoffs, bad special teams play cost them. When a punt snap sailed over the head of punter Mason Murphy and set up Aurora Greenmen on the Barberton 10-yard line. Chris Vanzo scored 2 plays later and finished with 11 carries for 76 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He was a beast on the ground for the Greenmans. The senior running back scored 2 third-quarter touchdowns, one for 2 yards and the other for 12 yards. Bubba Arslinian was again involved in the scoring, and he scored on a 33-yard run to open the play in the fourth quarter for a 40-7 lead. At that point, it was running clock time, and that was all she wrote for the Barberton Magics. The only positive for the Magic was Barberton tight end Kobe Booker secured 6 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown. Aurora now was waiting the winner of our next matchup, which saw Copley traveling to Hudson. And in another Suburban League crosstown matchup, we have Hudson had a 15-10 lead in the second quarter after Joe Sweet recovered a muffed punt in the end zone for a touchdown. Interesting to point out in this case is that after they signaled the touchdown, the officials gathered for about 15 minutes in the end zone to discuss whether or not the play was a touchdown or not. It ended up being that the Copley returner, Dion Melender, initially muffed the punt, but then it touched off of him a second time. The second time it touched him, it made the punt a live ball and gave Hudson a touchdown. I read it 3 times. I still don't understand it. What I do understand is that at this point, Hudson had scored a touchdown. That's about well. But Copley was able to respond with back-to-back rushing touchdowns by quarterback Austin Brenner, who finished the night with 302 yards passing and a passing touchdown, along with 111 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Hudson's QB, Colt Pally, had to respond, and he did so, throwing a 19-yard pass to Sam Wright and a 47-yard pass to Greg Maley in a span of 1 minute and 39 seconds in the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, Copley was not able to mount the comeback that maybe Medina did in Region 2, because as they were driving into Hudson territory, Jackson Parker, who also plays quarterback for the Explorers, made a fantastic defensive play and intercepted the ball, stalling that drive. Copley again got an opportunity, but the Hudson defense, as it has been their calling card all year, was able to stop Copley on downs. Now, a couple of key things to understand here is that Hudson's all-state candidate running back, Weston Bridges, Michigan State commit. He got hurt in the fourth quarter and was not
he
able.
had a knee injury.
Yeah, was not able to finish out. So these last 2 drives, they were doing it without their biggest weapon. Also to consider, Hudson may have lost their really good kicker, Grant Gagne, to a possible broken leg or ankle.
Whoa.
So he's out for the remainder of the playoffs.
Whoa.
Wow.
And he had 2 crucial field goals early to kind of stem the tide of Copley coming back. So now we have a setup where we have the champion of the Suburban National Division versus the champion of the Suburban American Division in the Division II Region V semifinals Friday night at Nordonia High School. Hudson will face Aurora in that semifinal.
Oh, my.
So, really good. I think Hudson did exactly what they needed to do in this game in the sense that they played tough defense and their offense did just enough. Copley, they probably really could have used Weston Bridges down towards the end of that game, and I think that's what hurt them. But also the fact that their defense gave up pretty much 2 touchdowns in less than 2 minutes. That doesn't allow a lot of time to kind of spin your head a little bit. So that's definitely going to be an interesting matchup when you see Hudson versus Aurora in that semifinal. Our next game saw the Brecksville Bees traveling to Warren G. Harding. And despite, I would say probably, and this is my opinion, probably the best offensive effort of Week 1, Luke Sternad had 6 touchdowns for Brecksville-Broadview Hts. Still wasn't enough. They lost to Warren G. Harding 48-56. Sternad had 5 touchdown passes to junior wide receiver Sam Wiglus. And that kept them within striking distance. But as I mentioned in the Hudson game, as I mentioned in the Aurora game, special teams. And that was the issue here. Warren Harding returned 2 kickoffs for touchdowns on special teams. So as much as they were scoring on offense, when you give up 14 free points on special teams, it's hard to come back for that. Now, trailing 56-41 with 3:59 remaining, Sternad led Brecksville down the field, and in a 6 touchdown pass, he found sophomore wide receiver Kenny Ganley to cut the lead with just 54 seconds left in the game. Unfortunately, the Warren Harding special teams did it again and recovered an onside kick and basically ran the clock out on Brecksville-Broadview Hts. Now, Warren G. Harding will now face Chardon, who we were commenting at our game of the week at Lakewood was just really taking it to Bedford. They ended up crushing Bedford 56-6 in their first round matchup. I mean, I believe it was running clock before halftime in that game. I think the halftime score was like 42-0.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Bedford, their season is over. But now we have a really good matchup, I think, with Warren G. Harding and Chardon. And I'm interested to see if the Hilltoppers at Chardon can continue this momentum. I mean, they really have been rolling through their last few weeks here, and really took it to Bedford, who was. Bedford and Copley played each other last week in a regular season showdown, and that was play. I mean, those are 2 teams in the playoffs, so I'm interested to see. So just to set it up, Division V, Region V semifinal matchups, we have number 1 seed Aurora versus number 4 seed Hudson, and that's going to be at Macedonia Nordonia High School.
Yeah, we were there.
Our next semifinal is number 2 seed Chardon versus number 3 seed Warren G. Harding. And this one's going to be at Ravenna Stadium, Gilchrist Field. So we're chalk in Division II Region V. All four top seeds made it, and now we're going to see who the best of the best is in that region.
Yeah, you look at it, 1 against 4, 2 against 3.
Yep.
I mean, that's you got some
that's
big
the bracket.
burns. The worst record in that division is Hudson at 9-2. I mean, that's saying something because Hudson had a great year, and they're a really tough team. We had a chance to see them, and they're impressive.
Well, as exciting as Division II Region V was, I got a feeling that Rob covering Division II Region 6 was probably the most bonkers one of Friday night.
It was
Rob,
crazy.
I'm going to throw it to my.
Ed, do you have any last words for?
Ed, sorry.
No, thanks.
It's my bad.
Yeah, it's all. 2 of my teams played. All right.
Well, I mean, 1-1.
You covered. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. We talked about it last Thursday. It would take, when you have Luke Sternad as your quarterback, you're never out of a game.
Right.
And he proved once again that he's a tough out. And last year he was not able to participate in the last couple of games of the year, which ultimately led to Brecksville's demise as far as making the playoffs.
Right.
Now that they got in, you saw just how special he is as a player and how important he is to that Bees team. And like you said, Duff, it took 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns and another 76-yard run. 3 huge plays for Warren G. Harding to have to overtake Brecksville-Broadview Heights. And then just with Hudson, like you said, losing Grant Gagne is it's a big loss. I mean, that's guaranteed 3 points as long as you get it within the 30-yard line. But we'll see what that 3-headed monster can do against Aurora. Aurora's with, they have multiple playmakers, and Arcelini might be one of the best linebackers in the state, if not the best.
Everywhere on the field. We saw him when we were at Copley. I mean, the guy it seems like he can tip the ball to himself off the defense. And he was in a 3-point stance at the time. He was coming off the edge, and he just bats it up in the air, and he's gone. And it's the weirdest thing. But you're right, Ed. I think if you look at this, the matchup that I'm the most interested to see is Aurora Hudson, because again, you have your best on best. Aurora's offense is very potent. Hudson's defense is pretty good. I mean, it's bend don't break, but you just wonder again, if you give Aurora momentum, they tend to kind of pile them up on you, just like St. Ignatius.
As long as they can keep it close, just like they did against Stowe. I mean, they're the only team to come back and beat Stowe, and they had a fourth quarter comeback to do it. So I mean, if you're Aurora and you have a chance to blow them out, you got to do it.
Yeah.
If you have a chance to get the trigger running clock and get that clock going and get it closer to ending, you need to take care of that, because Hudson, they won't go away.
No.
They will not go away.
And again, Chardon and Warren G. Harding, these are 2 teams that we don't necessarily follow, but I mean, obviously, given Chardon hasn't lost all year. They're
always
seed,
tough every year. It seems like they're there.
And Warren G. Harding, hey, they beat look, they put up 56 points against Brecksville-Broadview Heights. They survived a guy. I mean, if you look at the stat sheet, you said, "Oh, Brecksville-Broadview Heights quarterback had 6 touchdowns." You'd thought they won. And then you come back and say, "Oh well, they got help from everywhere. They got help from everywhere. Defense, especially special teams, and of course their offense." So I'm very interested to see how that game plays out. But I'm going to be keeping my eye on Aurora and Hudson on Friday night.
Yeah, and congratulations, to Copley and Brecksville-Broadview Heights. They both had great seasons. Yeah, Barberton as well,
and Bedford.
Bedford. They had a really good season. Everybody had a great season that made the playoffs. And like you said, Luke Stranad, he is an unbelievable player. The Brecksville defense just, had a hard time stopping the offense there. So that's the problem they had. But great year overall for all these teams.